Hello and welcome to my space. I'm Manur, a former Oxford student, and now I work at the University of Oxford. I thought today I would go about my journey of being an international student and how that changed me. I think coming from Pakistan as someone who had never traveled before, I learned a lot by being just on my own and doing life alone. And I did gain a lot of perspective and learned a lot of things that I had never even thought about. So, having spent most of my life living with my parents, the first thing that I figured coming here was just the amount of life admin that you have to take care of. Because being back home, I had never really cooked or done my laundry or cleaned or even done any of the life admin. So I did learn a lot of those things living alone. And I'm not complaining. I know this is coming from a place of privilege and everyone has to do these things themselves. But for me, it was a learning curve. Other than that, I think just having to figure out the big things like looking for housing, paying deposit for your housing, finding the right place to live, managing your livelihood, dealing with passports and visas and everything on your own, your government documentation and applications when your visa is expiring, what visa you next need to apply to. Because now I've been in the UK for 7 years, so I've had to do these things multiple times. So these were just some things that I had to do on my own, and I know everybody does it, so it's not a complaint or a brag, but there's just so much more that you learn from being an international student, not just the studies you're going for, but a lot of other things in life. And I feel like all of these things initially felt like a battle and it felt like way too much. But now that I've done these things multiple times, changed houses all alone, number of times, year after year, I have become quite strong in ways I had never thought I would be. And as someone who never used to cook, even learning to cook, and I feel like now I do quite good and I can cook most of my favorite Pakistani food myself. So these were all learning curves, and I'm really grateful to the journey because I didn't just do a degree here. I learned a lot about life and I learned a lot about myself. Um, but the one thing that really hit hard having to do all over alone was dealing with sickness. Whenever I felt sick, having to go to the hospital alone and having to figure out medications. I remember having to walk to my GP clinic when I was having high fever and an infection to just get to be seen by a doctor, and then walking to the pharmacy to pick up my prescription. Those things hit hard, felt hard. Now they don't feel like such a big deal, and I've done them multiple times. But having to do all of these things alone, having no one to take care of you, and having to figure out so many things, it also comes down to dealing with loneliness. Because coming from Pakistan, living in a joint family, and then living in a hostel in Islamabad, there were always people around. So I always thought that just having a moment alone, just having your own space, is such a great thing, and it is. But while being at back home, just thinking about solitude and how much I would like it, when that becomes your normal, when that becomes your everyday life, loneliness can creep in. And I had never thought that would happen to me, but it does take a toll on your health, on how you feel. And you can call back home. I do call my parents and my siblings regularly, but how much are you going to talk over the screen? I'm really grateful for technology and that we can do that, but just knowing that you do not have anyone in your physical space. And while I chose this journey myself, I really wanted to experience life abroad. There is a cost to it. So learning about these things and learning about all of the cost that comes with opportunity was a big deal, and it still is, because after all these years, when I do go back home, I feel like I've changed in so many ways that maybe I do not really integrate with that environment anymore. While that will always be home, I do feel like I'm in between places constantly, and that is quite a reality check because I do not relate to a lot of things that I could back then. The growth has been quite, like, it's been huge, and I think I've changed in many ways. And I have also changed spiritually because growing up Muslim, while I did used to pray, I used to fast and do all the religious obligations, I think living alone has taught me to be a bit more spiritual, a bit more grounded, and also a bit more patient with my prayers. Because I remember in my teenage and early 20s always being like, this is what I'm working for, so this is what I want, and this is what I'm praying for. Because I have put in the hard work, there's no reason why my prayer wouldn't be answered. This is what I'll get. And I used to get those things, but just growing up, and I think life catching up with you, and so many other things coming up, there are certain things that you really work hard for, that you give your best, and you may still not get them. So that has been a bit of a hard journey, but I think it spiritually grounded me a lot more. And now I understand the concept of prayers, the concept of universal timing, and what is best for you and what is meant for you. These are the things that, while I knew in theory, I hadn't really experienced them myself. So it has been a humbling journey, I would say. And I feel like after all these years doing life alone, I have grown in ways I had never thought, and that growth has been painful. I'm not going to glorify it. I'm really grateful for all the opportunities, don't get me wrong, and I'm not complaining or bragging. Everybody who comes out as an international student has to go through these phases, but for me, it was a learning journey, and I feel like when you're applying for scholarships, when you're trying to move abroad, these are things that you not really think of, um, uh, things that you do not really factor in, and you may overlook or never really gauge these. Because back home, my biggest worry was passing the next exam, finding the next job, and living alone taught me that while those worries would remain, if there will be just so much else to figure out: keeping a clean house, managing groceries, cooking on time, because otherwise your health would suffer, and you can't really do takeaways every day because then your financial health would suffer. So all of these have been like so many things coming from all directions at one point, that you do get overwhelmed, and you do feel like this is way too much, more than you asked for, more than you prepared for. So I feel like anyone who's planning to come abroad, wherever you want to go, it's a wonderful journey. It will change you in many ways, but be ready for all the challenges that would come with it. While the opportunities are great, there's always a cost to an opportunity, and that cost might be leaving your comfort behind. And of course, you should leave your comfort behind because there's no growth in your comfort zone. But just learning about a lot of other things. And I know there are people much more hardworking than me who would probably already know how to cook, who probably manage their houses back home. But for me personally, because I had not done these things, this was my growth curve. And I think the thing that hit me most was just the idea of constantly living alone, because I thought I would love that, and I do enjoy bits of it. There are quite a lot of things I enjoy, not having anyone in my space and managing my time as per my own wishes, and just having my own sleeping patterns and stuff, not really dependent on other people, cooking when I feel like, cooking what I feel for, but not having someone to talk to. Because I always had my parents and siblings around, and when I lived in a hostel in Islamabad, I always had so many people around that there would always be someone to at least share a cup of chai in the evening. And not having that has been a bit humbling, a bit quiet. It does get lonely. It's a tough journey in many ways, but I feel like all of this had made me spiritually really grounded. And I do wish that anyone who is preparing for their international student journey does prepare for all those challenges and everything that will come in their way, and just remain strong, because the journey will make you much more resilient. And while this resiliency doesn't always come as a choice, it's not something you might truly enjoy, but it's going to help you grow in so many ways. I feel like I am quite a changed person than what I was 7 years ago. I'm much more patient. I wouldn't say I'm not impatient at all. I am impatient. I do get quickly frustrated over things, but I think I have changed in ways that now I do believe in the universe having a time for everything, in Allah having a plan for me, and I am constantly more grateful for all the opportunities and everything that happens. So I'm not so much in a panic mode as I used to be before. My closest friends do still get to see the panic that I go through, but it's not something that I display quite commonly. It's not something that I voice quite commonly, because I feel like now I have become someone who reflects a lot more, who is always okay with whatever happens and then plans for the next thing. Because I've learned one thing through my journey is that you can plan, you can do your best, but it might not always go your way, and that's okay, because something else, something maybe even better might be waiting for you. There's always something better, there's always another opportunity. So I have started taking things more lightly and not get fixated on exactly what I want, exactly the outcome I was hoping for. So I feel like it has been life changing. My journey as an international student, I would say, to conclude, has been really life changing in many, many ways. Ways that I hadn't even factored in, and ways that I didn't think could really matter, but it all does matter. And I feel like now in my early 30s, I am a completely changed person than what I was in my early 20s. And this journey has helped me grow a lot in many ways, and I will forever be grateful. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you picked something that you liked. Or if you have any questions, any suggestions, or any anecdotes that you would like to share, please do let me know, and I would love to get in touch with you again. Thank you. Bye.